Hi, Brian Stevens, co-founder of Caissa K12, where we only work to increase and stabilize student enrollment. And I got requested to do another case study, which is kind of fun for me, but I hope it helps you understand what we do, but also what you can do. Also, anything to get the babies in the right school systems, which are traditional public schools, in case you're wondering. All right, so I've got a case study today on this is only on new student recruitment. We actually have student recruitment into two phases. We have the new student recruitment and then the no-show, which I'll get into another day. So this is about recruiting new students that are currently not in their districts, and I got a case study, and it's with Jefferson Parish Schools, a fantastic partner. We got some really awesome friends down there, getting ready to plan a trip down there with the whole company just for fun, because it's New Orleans. It's right outside of New Orleans. It's a great place. All right, so let's talk about just in general the snapshot of what occurred, and then I'll kind of get into the nuts and bolts of it. So over the course of this year, we recruited 378 students for them, and it looks like we on this report, we've worked with them for a number of years now, so we're 3 years in, and we've increased and I say we, it's a team effort. I mean, it's with the district, it's with us, it's with families choosing the awesome school choice of Jefferson Parish, but we've increased their budget by $11 million over those 3 years and 4.5 just this year, just in the year 2024, 2025, right? And that's based on an average student count at 11,900 per student. And those of you that know that it's weird to put a value on a student attending school, but that's how the governments fund the school districts by per head enrollment. So that's what they did. So let's get into. I'm scrolling along because I don't want to waste your time with the benefits and all these things. But let me do say that, as part of our program, in any program that you're evaluating, when you're considering recruiting students, you need hardcore return on investment. That's the first thing every student recruitment campaign should have. So if you're doing it with your internal team or an external team or a combination like with us in Jefferson Parish, it has to have hard numbers at the end. And this is where traditional marketing and advertising do not work. There's an old adage when it comes to marketing. I don't know who did it, but it's basically, we know that half of our marketing dollars are wasted. We just don't know which half. Well, you got to know which half. And it's the difference between a reputation building campaign, which is marketing and advertising. I'm not suggesting you don't do those things, but it doesn't get you new students. It solidifies a buyer's choice that you're a good district. So it's nice to have that, but without the ask, without the personal contact, resolving people's issues and talking to them and connecting with them, I'm going to get into that in a minute, then it doesn't work. And you have to track them by name. So in our personal case, we believe so much in our ability to track and control the data and knowing who was new and who is now there because of our efforts that we offer 100% guarantee. So that's real, right? If the student doesn't show up, we don't enroll them, and the student doesn't show up, we don't get paid. That is accountability and return on investment at its highest regard. I'm not saying everybody's as awesome as we are, but I would say that whatever you do, you want to make sure that it's not just, like, did we get impressions and number counts and things like that, because it doesn't recruit students. And one more example for you. When you're evaluating how to do this is if it's just marketing and they say, we're going to get you 50,000 impressions. Well, I don't know if that means it's new students. I don't know if that means that they're going to enroll. It's just impressions, right? So don't track impressions. You may want to track the number of people that go to your enrollment site, the number of people that show up in enrollment, how many people that also show up to enroll and then don't enroll. That means there's some sort of barrier to enrollment. So let's get into a little bit about the methodology. So kind of broke it down into three fundamental phases, right? Discovery, outreach, and then tracking. The discovery phase is really looking at those registration processes. Are there barriers to enrollment? Ways that stop people from enrolling that were kind of interested. And certainly your overall reputation could be a problem, but that's not the problems that we see historically. We're talking about some districts we found only allowed enrollment during the workday, like 9 to 5, when the parents are, working and can't be there. That's a barrier to success. Or you require 10,000 forms, barrier to registration, barrier to enrolling. At a couple districts, we found that they wouldn't let a child enroll if they found out their sibling 4 years before that didn't pay for a band uniform or had an outstanding library book. And I'm not trying to be like, people need to return the library books and they need to return the band uniforms and things, but it's like a $30 deal and you're not going to get the $11, $12, $13,000 for the student over that. That's what happened before competition. Nowadays, we've got to get rid of those barriers to buying, and that's what we're talking about. So we do a lot of secret shopping also. We had done that for them years before, so we hadn't done it during this particular campaign. But going in there and discovering the things that could stop potential parents from buying is critical. One more story. We had found a bunch of parents to go and do a tour of a particular school, and the families weren't showing up for the tours. And so this was not too far away, so I got in a car and I signed up to do a tour because I just really wanted to know. And I'm an old Army guy, man. I'm a lawyer, and I only say that to me. It's like I don't get that frazzled by people, but when I had pulled in, there was a police guy with a whistle. He's whistling and whistling and yelling and whistling, and it was like, go this way, go this way, go this way. So I drove this way, and then it drove me right out of the area. Then I turned around and came back by, and he's whistling and blowing and blowing and blowing and whistling, and I was freaking out. And I stopped the car. I just put it in park. I said, I'm not going to have this guy. And I rolled down the window. He goes, you need to keep moving. And I go, hey, I need some help. I'm new family. Where do I go? And he was so polite. He was so awesome after that. Oh, well, sir, you just turn over here and park right there. The barrier was the whistles, not him. He was great. All we did to get rid of that enrollment barrier is remove the whistles. And then he actually had to communicate and talk to people and learn that I wasn't there to pick up or drop off. Anyway, we then determine the targets and then the vehicles with which to speak to those targets. It's always very specialized. So some people need text messages. Some people need live phone calls. Some people need door knocks. Some people need, trips to preschools, daycares, libraries. You've got to know who you're trying to enroll, and then you have to figure out the best way to connect with them. And it's typically multiple ways. It's multiple vehicles. And when I mean vehicles, I mean what method of outreach? Is it snail mail? Yeah, snail mail is still really important in some areas. People get on average 15,000 communications a day. So determining who your targets are and then how to connect with them using communications is critical. Once we know that, then the hard work begins. 9 to 21 contacts minimum. Different ways to contact them. You cannot get bored. If you have people in your offices, in internal teams, and they're attempting to enroll people, they got to call them lots of times. They got to email them lots of times. They got to text message them lots of times. The messaging is critical. That's an art form. That's probably a different video. I'm going to keep this to the mechanics of enrolling, but the art is that really specialized word choices that don't shame people, don't embarrass people, highlight why you're awesome. But the mechanics are, you just got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it. There's an old adage in speeches that says, when you're bored saying it, when you're bored saying the message, they've just started to listen. Don't get bored. Just keep driving it. And then you're tracking it. We use a pretty rigorous software system that we've been building over the years to try to track the students from a cold line all the way through the pipeline. You might start off with 10,000 and end up with 500, and that's a good number, by the way. So you start big and you kind of scroll it down as people are interested or not interested, and then you rinse and repeat. And so you want to provide good data at the end about why people chose you and why they didn't, but you really can't bake that in a recruitment campaign as much as that's a research project. So sometimes people try to dump it and combine it, which means when I've seen people, like I'm a science dude. I love the science. I love the nerdy stuff. But if you focus too much on the research, you don't focus enough on getting people to show up and actually raise student count. So you got to think about those as in tandem, but not necessarily mushed together. Keep those in two separate boxes. Do both if you can. But if you had a choice, you got to get the babies in the school, and then, you can worry about the data a little bit later. I know that's hard. It's always been hard on me to do that. Okay, so let's talk about what we did for Jefferson Parish. We actually picked certain campaign vehicles, and I think that we used all of these. We improved the registration a little bit. They were doing pretty good. Emails, grassroots team, door knocks. We did some training for the front desk workers, events. We used a little bit of AI, but it was really the more personal touch. Live phone calls with parents, answering their questions, resolving their issues, and convincing them Jefferson Parish is the right choice for them. And live calls on nights and weekends. So those are real people doing the connecting, right? So it's not some hubbub, right? And so we kind of broke up those phases. But let's talk about then the results. No, the activities. Here's what we did. We started off with 17,000 potentials during the course of the 9-month campaign, starting from January till near the start of school. We unqualified 1,100 people. And what we mean by unqualified is 1,100 of those people were already in the district. And we want new students, not current students. So we unqualified them. They're still enrolled. They're still in the district, but it's just not a part of this particular campaign because they're already there. That's like keeping the babies. Okay. We ended up tracking 6,700, which means they showed some level of interest. We qualified them so they're outside of the district or they're in a competitive school or homeschool, whatever that may be. And then we start to work them. We work them through the pipeline and we sent out, let's talk about the nuts and bolts, 54,000 emails, 4,000 door knocks or canvas operations, 12,000 calls, 7,000 text. 7,000 texts. That's interesting. 7,000 texts is lower than in a lot of other districts. Typically, I would see the text messages and the emails be a little closer together in terms of number counts, but the population, that means the target universe in Jefferson Parish, relied a little bit more on door knocks and emails because that canvas operation is higher than in a lot. The 12,000 calls doesn't surprise me. The 38 events doesn't surprise me, but the low text message and the high canvas operations was a choice we had to make. You go back to the 100% guarantee. We only get paid if they show up. So we're going to move those vehicle choices depending on what people are responding to and what our research says. So you got to have a plan, and then you got to have a very flexible plan, and you got to make adjustments. So I think that this one's interesting because this canvas operation was higher than a lot of districts for this particular 378 student count, and the text messages was lower. Does that mean less mobile numbers? Probably, right? Or people not responsive enough to text messages. Emails, pretty normal count when you got 17,000 people. So you send out several dozen emails and you kind of whittle your way down. And long-term, the results, like we said, was the return of $4.5 million for the district. And we took a little piece of that per head. And we got to pay the bills, right? And we also provided certain district feedback on why the parents left. This is more anecdotal information. Like I said, not a rigorous survey process. We do that, but it's a separate kind of service line, and it's not a part of this getting students up. Like I said, I'm an old soldier. I like keeping the main thing. The main thing in this regard was recruiting students, but we also have done a lot of research for the district too. Their internal team has found very valuable to keep parents and exit surveys and things like that. We'll get into that later. I hope this helps. Go crush it. Get those kids in the best schools in the world, which are public schools. Thanks.